Hey, Sharon, want to talk about detox?
Detox? What's that? Mind, body? What are we detoxing?
No, all of the above.
Where do I start?
Well, let's unpack that. Let's start with the mind. Why don't we do a whole series over 4 weeks? Where do I start? Which starts with our mind and our mindset. What do I do? And that, of course, is you and the body and all that sort of stuff talking to each other. And then why? What's the purpose? Fourth week, let's take action. Like, how do we make the shift?
All right, that sounds great. Let's get going.
Let's talk about our wonderful, brilliant minds.
All right, Miss Geneticist, what you got for us today?
Well, let's start with mindset, right? And I don't think people realize that there's two types of mindset. There's a fixed mindset, and then there's a growth mindset. And very often, the logical self of ours gets stuck in that fixed mindset. We do because we think we're supposed to, or someone said should do this, or it's just that like societal rule little ball. Whereas letting our spirits kind of go and allow growth to happen because we want to.
That's so fascinating because I kind of feel as though so many of us, and myself included, didn't even realize that I lived with a limited mindset and limiting beliefs because I was just in my little cocoon. I had my blinders on, everything was linear, everything was black and white. And when you don't know what you don't know, it's almost as though it's one of the 4 pillars that you and I have talked about in the past of competency, and it's being unconsciously incompetent. And it kind of sounds lousy when you think, oh my God, I'm incompetent.
Right.
It's about being so unaware of the possibilities.
Exactly. But you said something really great. It's we do it, but we don't know it, right? It's what we don't know. So to shift from being incompetent to being competent, consciously competent, right? It's kind of going from the unconscious to the conscious. We have to be aware of the unconscious, right? So it's that journey that we've taken on a little later in life, but many can start earlier in life. But figuring out and really learning to listen to ourselves and trust ourselves and kind of turn off that outside noise, create better habits. You know, our mind is really brilliant, right? You know, I talk about neuroplasticity and all of that sort of thing, because we have control over creating new patterns and behaviors.
On that note, about all of this with the patterns, the behaviors, neuroplasticity, it still feels so overwhelming of, okay, but where do I start? You know, how do I pay attention and to any of this? I really just feel like it's a little overwhelming because how do I tune out that noise?
You know, it sounds so easy and it's so not, right? So I think the first biggest word to start listening to is the word trust. Start learning to trust ourselves, right? To start listening and changing patterns and behaviors, I always tell people, my clients, to begin with a morning routine, as simple as 5 minutes. That's all. Ask yourself 2 questions. How do I want to feel? And what do I need from today? Now, what you do in those 5 minutes to get those answers, I don't really care. You can do whatever you want. If it's having a cup of coffee, awesome. If it's yoga, awesome. I try to jump rope and try to get to a minute. Probably it's more like 30 seconds, but I'm getting there. If it's stretching, if it's breathing, if it's meditation, if it's journaling, whatever makes you just kind of get into your own space and quiet that noise you're talking about, quiet the outside noise. And every time you feel like you start thinking about that to-do list or the kids or the dog or, you know, time's rushing, I got to get going, I have a meeting coming up, like just to shush it.
I love that because at the end of the day, with so much, with advertisements, with social media, we are so bombarded with all this noise and we're so disconnected from ourselves that we don't even realize that we are. And I love that idea of just like sitting with yourself for 5 minutes, closing your eyes, or however, you know, to me, as you're talking, I'm thinking, wow, I just love to just like sit with my cup of coffee. I'm closing my eyes. I'm imagining like what I'm going to do tomorrow morning, of taking that breath and just taking stock of what do I want to get out of the day? You know, what's important to me? We're so busy putting everybody else in front of us that we don't think about that. We're too busy worrying about the spouse, the significant other, the kids, the job, the dog. And I think that's so important to just take that pause and breathe and to start your day doing that. It's probably great to end your day doing that also.
I think it's great to end your day doing that. You know, I think for me, I've learned to end my day with gratitude. Not that I don't start my day with gratitude, but to really decompress the day. Here's my other little trick here is 3 things you're grateful for. You know, it could be that I made it out of bed today. It could be that I actually, you know, washed my clothes. It doesn't matter. It could be that you took the stage that you wanted to. Anything that just you're thankful for. It could be you met a friend that you hadn't seen in years, right? But it just kind of can close the day and close your mind down, and you can sleep a whole lot better. And the biggest thing I want to say too is make sure that if you miss a day, or like to be kind and gentle with yourself, right? If you miss a day, add the next day in. If you can do 2 days or 3 days this week, just repeat 2 days, 3 days the following week before you now go in and add a 4th day. You know, it's creating these new patterns. And if you try to rush it, what happens is it all sounds great for the first, 7, 14 days, but then we give it up. And honestly, it's not necessarily our own bad habits. It's our brain saying, why? You don't need to get up early and do this. You're fine. Sleep in, you're fine. Our brain plays tricks on us. It's all about creating the new pattern. And that's why you always see these like 21-day minimum challenges, because it's scientifically a neuronal pattern has to happen, and your neurons have to kind of change gears and reprogram to something different. But your brain will try and outsmart you.
Yeah, the brain's always trying to outsmart me. But I'm just saying.
Me too.
21 days, it could be 21 years. It's always trying to outsmart me, because one thing, and this actually just reminded me even of your TED talk, of how our fear, and things that are tattooed into our brain, that it's always there. So even with the 21 days, or the idea of this detox and trying something new and giving yourself the self-love to realize it takes time to build this, we do have that thought. We've got that little devil, like the angel on one side, the devil on the other
side.
side.
Yeah, exactly.
That just, tries to kind of pick at that scab of the tattoo and kind of just like make its way back into the forefront. So it's not just, okay, let me detox this. It's like, let me put my arms around this. Let me embrace that this is part of my life, part of my memory, part of my mindset, but not let it stop me.
Right.
So that I can just keep moving forward. And it's just that reminder, because I feel as though the more that we do it, the more resilient we become.
Great point. Absolutely great point. And you bring up a good point about like the detox itself, because it's almost like detoxing your behaviors, like getting to know who you really are. Because as you said, the tattoos, the sequence, all of that started, imprints way before we even realized they started. So frankly, imprints start in utero. So before some of these things happen so young, and until really you're an adult and something triggers a past memory, you don't even pick up on it. So it's almost, detox is more like getting to know yourself and nurture yourself, so you understand what these triggers are, and you can move forward and learn to really love yourself and learn to understand what makes you and what you want.
All right, stop the presses. it starts in utero? What?
So fear, ready for this one? So the whole science of fear, and I think you've heard me say this, but the whole science of fear stuff, right? 5 areas of your brain have to like light up. Think of a light bulb lighting up, right? To get light. Well, your brain lights up for the fear response to happen. So your thalamus, your hypothalamus, your sensory cortex, your hippocampus, and your amygdala all have to respond at the same time just for you to be like, ah, something's happened, like, ah, right? Now you can choose to, if it's a fight or flight response, like you'll choose what that is. But the amygdala, which is like the size of an almond, actually stores imprints of fear. So every moment, every twitch that you have, right, gets stored in the amygdala from in utero, which is the mother's responses to her own fears.
Wow.
Throughout your entire life. So think of it like a tattoo, like stamp, 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 stamp. You can remove it, not so simple, laser surgery or whatever the new technique would be, but it can be removed. But science shows that, you know, between ages 7 to 9 is when, you know, children really start thinking for themselves. So all those past behaviors, all those past imprints are caregivers, parents, siblings, societal impositions, really.
Wow. So we really need to be so mindful of our minds and detox our mind when we're pregnant if we want, as part of it, of wanting to have healthy offspring. That's, yeah. That just like, I'm just saying.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Imagine like we could solve the world's problems just by, you know, teaching young women to mind their minds. And then of course, detox their bodies properly. Imagine the combination of the two. Like it's
I know, we should do like a Lamaze class for brains or something.
Ooh, there you go. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. There you go.
So I know we're going off topic here, but Lamaze was just like, yeah.
I got thrown out of Lamaze. Did I ever tell you that?
Did you really?
My husband Dan and I laughed so hard during it that they asked us to leave. I could not focus on that whole concept. I laughed. I literally laughed.
I think I just blocked it out of my memory.
I was like, some people were so seriously trying to breathe, and I was like, what are you doing?
Wait. So now that you have me thinking about in utero. So, all right. So I gave birth to my twins without
really?
any natural. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, but why?
I don't. The short answer to that is when I gave birth to my oldest son, I was induced because he was 2 weeks late. And then the contractions came on so quickly and he wasn't coming out because the cord was wrapped around his neck twice. So they had to just keep drugging me up. And it took me so long to recover. He was fine. We didn't have to do an emergency C-section and everything was fine. But I had a difficult time and I was traumatized by the experience of how long it took me to recover. So when I got pregnant with my twins and I realized I could do it natural without a C-section, my first thought was, I don't want to have drugs until the very, very last minute, which started out great. Got to the hospital, we're waiting. The anesthesiologist was there waiting. And my sister, who's an OBGYN, who was there, she's like, Sharon, please just take it now, take it now. I'm like, no, I got this. I'll do it just at the right time. Well, lo and behold, there was an emergency C-section that came through an ambulance, through the next door. The anesthesiologist was called away to the emergency C-section.
Oh,
and
no.
Left with no anesthesiologist, that when I needed it, I was like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. My head, I swear to God, it was like probably doing 360s. And I was just like, the words coming out of my mouth weren't human. I won't go into the rest of the details as I remember them, but what I'm thinking is, holy cow, if these little babies, they didn't get the drugs, but they got my stress and my mental whatever anguish delivering that. No
The
one.
imprints they have. Well, that could answer a few questions. Just kidding.
I mean, if you want to talk about unpacking this.
Let's really unpack this. Wow.
Yeah, oh my God, it's like there are stories. I would love to like hear other people's stories, because could you imagine like putting all these pieces together and then being able to help our kids with things like, you know, wondering, why is this one more anxious than this one? Why is that one's, you know, because we're all different.
Yeah.
So
it would be so interesting to do that.
I know.
It'd be so interesting.
It is so fascinating. Okay, so let's circle back.
Back to detox.
Detox. Wow, you have no idea how you just like blew my mind there. And I can't even imagine those who are watching this, what they're thinking.
It's unbelievable.
I'm speechless. So let's just circle back and let's wrap up just the ways to get started and the reinforcement of there's no wrong way to do this, right? It's
absolutely.
So just like recap for us.
Start a morning routine. If you don't have one, start a morning routine. 5 minutes. Pick two mornings this week. And if you can do 2 mornings, add that 3rd morning in and hold that for 2 weeks long before you try to add a 4th day, another week, then a 5th day. Most importantly, ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? And what do I need from today? And it's totally focused on you. How do you want to feel? You know, and what do you need? Are you taking a stage and you need a pep talk? Are you asking for a raise? Are you needing girlfriends? You know, like what do you need? And do at the time as you wish. You know, is it meditating? Is it stretching? I don't care what you do. I just want you to focus on you and really start getting truly honest with yourself and learning to trust your instincts and kind of shutting down that noise and that trigger. I mean, honestly, we all have 5 minutes unless the house is on fire or something is happening. We have 5 minutes to pause. So before, I really want people to start living their life in even like reacting to like an email or a conversation, like stop and pause and then respond.
Yeah, it's such great advice because when we connect to ourselves, we start to hear the patterns, like we start to really hear things. And at first we think, wait, am I just talking to myself? Is somebody sending me a message? Where's that voice coming from?
Yeah.
To hear the repetitiveness of certain messages that we're supposed to receive. And when we can pay attention to that, those are like the little pieces of the puzzle or the pebbles for the path to really help us move forward. Because then, as you're saying, connecting and tuning in and trusting will build over time, and it'll lead to that inner intuition of knowing that we know, right?
Right.
And you're saying also ending the day with the gratitude practice. So can
Absolutely.
you have that also?
And I suggest writing things down, not just saying them. Keep a small notepad by your bed. 3 things you're grateful for from the day. And you know what? Sometimes people tell me, you know, I'm repeating myself. It's the same words. That's okay. Like when you start new routines, you will find you'll learn and you'll find new words, and it's okay. Like, do you, no one's judging it. But it also helps clear your mind for the day. It'll also help you get a better night's sleep. Just 3 things you're grateful for.
That's awesome. So I'm actually going to make sure I do that this evening. And tomorrow morning, when I either go on my bike ride, because I feel like that's when I have time for me, on my bike, or I'm taking a walk, I'm going to make sure I pay attention. And something else that just occurred to me before we sign off is to remind ourselves, because we'll forget, because it's just habit. We're on this autopilot, to maybe even just put a Post-it next to our bed, or something that we'll see that'll be like, oh yeah, or post it on the mirror when we go to the bathroom, just to remind us until we build that habit and it becomes conscious and we're aware, right?
Exactly. And so when you wake up and you think, I have to get going, I don't have the 5 minutes. Remember, this is your unconscious brain fighting the conscious brain, right? You have to fight. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, saying, I am taking this 5 minutes for me.
Yeah.
So you have to fight this change that you're going to start. And it really does become this, like, however you want to do it, bribe yourself, like it's a mental bribery. You know, we all bribed our kids at some point. So with something, right? Something. I know we all did it. I know I did it 3 times.
Permission to bribe yourself.
So bribe your brain. You have to just fight the habit of saying, oh, I got to get going. I don't have time. I've got to walk the dog. I got to take a shower. So just get comfortable, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, taking the 5 minutes for a while, and just get in that habit.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing how we unpacked our lunch this first week with the detox of the mind. And next week, we're going to talk about the body and the connection of paying attention to that, which is just continuing from today. So thanks everybody for being here, and see you next week.
See you next week for lunch.